Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/JustNoMil. In today's episode, AITA for accusing his family of being manipulative and keeping my daughter away from them? XMIL wants to take my son overseas, I said no, X is not happy. The gift stealer. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. AITA for accusing his family of being manipulative and keeping my daughter away from them? My ex, M42, and I, F41, get along really well. We're co-parenting a 5-year-old boy, and I also have a daughter who is 13. Her dad passed away when she was 4, so she calls my ex dad. There is a chance we might get back together. I am NC with my ex's family, because they treated me horribly during and after our relationship. He always took their side, it was one of the reasons I left him. My ex often takes our son to visit them. Sayal has a 4-year-old boy. For a few months now the little boy has been asking after my daughter. It keeps happening, coincidentally if he's talking on the phone to a Sayal and she knows I'm in the room. I said to my ex that it is suspicious to me that nephew hasn't seen my daughter since he was a baby, yet he is asking after her all the time, and I suggested to my ex that his family are trying to manipulate us by telling nephew to say it. My ex got angry with me and said nobody is making nephew say anything, and that my daughter is part of their family. He then refused to talk about it. It's the second time I've said this, and he reacted the same way. I think they are trying to get me to break NC and using my daughter as a way to get to me. MIL has a history of being manipulative. For example, if he doesn't do what she wants, she will say that he is making her physically ill to make him feel guilty. And more, but I don't have time to write it all. A few years ago Sayal said that my daughter was the biggest brat she's ever met and deserves a slap. Also, my daughter has recently come out as queer and is experimenting with gender, and I don't think Sayal and MIL will be supportive. He has invited my daughter to join him in visiting them, but so far she's declined, and I haven't tried to stop her, but now I think I'll put my foot down and insist that he stop inviting her. AITA for accusing his family of being manipulative and keeping my daughter away from them? Is he the AH for not listening to me and taking their side again? I wish he and I could just have a conversation about it, but he refuses to talk about it, so here I am. YTA to yourself and children for even considering getting back to someone who allows you and your daughter to be mistreated, won't communicate with you regarding something so important, and will clearly never have you or your children's back. At the risk of being cliché, he showed you who he is the first time, believe him. NTA. If they're cruel to your daughter, your first job as a parent is to protect her. They're manipulating her with the 4-year-old. That's cruel. NTA. If your daughter doesn't want to see them, then she doesn't have to see them. If you think they will cause issues for her because she came out, then I won't blame you for putting your foot down. YWBTA if you get back together with this man. Either he stops catering to mommy or send him on his way. NTA. Trust your gut and your daughters too. Sometimes, it cannot be explained in words, but in subtle details and actions that we are not completely aware, as you are recounting on the post. You have already set clear boundaries with your ex-family members, don't break them down. Stand your ground. NTA. I think your daughter is very wise to have declined thus far. Ultimately, if you would like to re-enter a relationship with this person, I think you owe it to each other to communicate more clearly. My parents split when I was about your daughter's age and remarried when I was 19. It was jarring, and honestly their problems are just the same as they have always been. Getting back together is not doing anyone a favor. NTA coming to this late after your JNMIL post, I wonder if they are doing this to get the older daughter to provide babysitting. They are probably hyping her up to the little boy, as to how much fun she would be, so he will ask for her. Then, when she comes to visit, they have someone to watch the 4-year-old and they can do whatever. Combine that with the desire to take him to Ireland, it seems even fishier. You might be right. They will be disappointed though, as my daughter doesn't have any patience for children and won't even babysit her own brother. XMIL wants to take my son overseas. I said no, X is not happy. A little background on my JustNoMil here. Don't worry, X and I are not getting back together. I went NC with MIL when me and my ex split in 2020, and since then MIL keeps pushing my boundaries. The latest is that she wants to take my 5-year-old son for a week's holiday to Ireland to visit my ex BIL's family, who my son is not related to, and who I do not know. We live in Australia. It is a 20-hour flight. My son would be bored and possibly scared, and he has never been away from me that long. My ex has never looked after him by himself for more than one night. I told my ex to tell her no thank you, I'm not comfortable with that, perhaps when he is older. My ex hates to tell MIL no, so of course he is now upset with me. He thinks that this is an opportunity for a free holiday and that I'm turning down MIL's kind offer. He doesn't think about how our son will feel. MIL will be telling him what a mean person I am for making my son miss out, and poor her blah blah blah. She's only asking in order to push my boundaries. Also because Sayal has a 4-year-old and they refuse to give him electronic devices, so he'll be really bored on the trip too. Just venting really, thanks for listening. Edit, comments were locked and I'm not sure how to unlock them, but just wanted to say thank you for the support and the advice. I'll keep his birth certificate hidden so they can't get a passport. I don't think my ex would do that anyway. He's weird about letting his family treat people like rubbish. I think a lifetime of being abused by them has had that effect, but apart from that he's a good dad and a good person, and we are good friends. Thanks. Vent away, sister. You are 150% correct and your ex-MIL is obviously incapable of critical reasoning. I suppose the thought is that the two toddlers will play with each other and keep each other company. Maybe your SIL came up with the scheme, but it's a bad one. Perhaps when your child is 10 to 12 this trip might work. Shouldn't be considered until then. I think I would make sure that legally you get covered, that neither your ex or any other family members can take your son out of the country. Then wouldn't OP also not be able to take the child out of the country if she wanted to? He's 5. This isn't important to him. In fact, it'll probably be torturous for him. My anxiety would be so high. I would only let my parents take my kids on a trip that far away, and that's because we have a great relationship with them. Even if I trusted the person, they aren't taking my kids anywhere. It's not your problem he can't say no to his mommy. Don't break your NC, just don't worry about it. If it's that big of deal, he can get the courts involved. I'm not Australian, so I'm not sure how custody works there, but I imagine there would have to be some sort of legal agreement since it's out of the country. Good luck. Think of it as a way to irritate your ex-MIL since she has no control over this. Also, I had great relationships with my cousins, but even going to a stateover I would get majorly homesick. This happened until I was probably 12. I was so sad and missed my home even though I was having a great time with people I trusted. I can't imagine how scary it would be for a 5-year-old to fly for 20 years, be with a ton of people he doesn't know or barely knows. There's no safe place for him, and since you wouldn't be there, he would feel lost. Why does she want to take your 5-year-old out of the country to meet people who aren't family? That's really strange. He's way too young and will be upset being so far away from you. Tell your ex no. There's no reason for him to go. Number 5-year-old wants to be that far away from mommy and definitely doesn't want to visit people they don't know, especially without mommy. Okay, regardless of your NC situation, this isn't an appropriate situation for your son. If you were going, I'd say it was okay. Sending a little guy on a flight that long, to a different time zone to visit strangers just seems like too much. If he were 10, I'd say, maybe. My friend has a little girl who travels 3,000 miles to visit with him during the summer/school breaks. It's hard on her sleep schedule. Even though it's his kid and they have the best relationship, he still deals with a difficult cranky monster child, all due to her schedule getting out of whack. Putting your MIL in that situation isn't fair. Putting your son through that isn't fair. It's a recipe for a potential sh asterisk though. You're making the right decision. He thinks that this is an opportunity for a free holiday and that I'm turning down MIL's kind offer. Facepalm. A trip like that is not a holiday for a 5 years old. LOL, what an idiot. There's zero chance I'd let my kid leave the country without me, even if it was with someone I trusted, much less my MIL who I don't speak to. Sounds like an idea to ask LO about in 10 years. Is he being used as a pair or playmate for his cousin? I think that was their plan, yes. I'm NC with SAL too, she dislikes me and the feeling is mutual. I think there is usually some way that a parent can flag a passport so that the child cannot leave the country without both parents. You made the right decision not to let your 4-year-old travel to Ireland with his toxic grandma and clueless dad. A week is too long to be away from you, and a 20-hour flight would be awful to an active child. Your ex is just angry he won't get to go on a free trip to Ireland since you said no. Tough for him. Keep those boundaries strong. Australia to Ireland for a week. Nobody travels that far for 1 week's holiday. That would be one free holiday I'd pass on. That's insane. I wouldn't send my kid on a trip across a country that size without me, much less across the world. A kid should never be beyond easy reach of the custodial parent. You were quite right to say no. I don't know how Australian laws work, but you might want to lock down long-distance visits or trips in your custody/visitation papers. If he has a passport, you might want to invest in a small house safe so it's not easily accessible. That you do not know these people in Ireland is far more than enough reason to veto this trip. It would be enough reason even if they were local, let alone on the other side of the planet. In fact, I think it's a red flag regarding anyone advocating for this trip, a child too young to meaningfully advocate for himself, a whole week, with complete strangers, both to you and to the child, in an unfamiliar country on the other side of the planet from the parents. Anyone advocating for this clearly does not have your child's best interests in mind. Check how it works locally with passports and so on. In my country, both parents have to physically show up, in person, to apply for a minor's passport, regardless of marital status and even if one of them has sole custody. But check how it works in Australia. This would be useful to know and, possibly, make use of safeguards, not just now, but for possible future issues. Yeah, absolutely not. A 5-year-old will desperately miss his mummy after a few hours. That's a torturously long flight for an adult, let alone a young child without the comfort of his mum. And to do that long slog for a mere week? An ever bigger nope. Pure misery for a little boy so that his grandmother can show off. And also to probably spite you. Sorry you have an ex who'd rather make his own child uncomfortable than say no to his precious mummy. Thankfully, it's illegal in my country to take a minor out of the country without both parents' authorization. I think it's probably illegal in most countries too. I'm so happy you divorced that douchebag. The gift stealer. MIL at some point overheard me or my wife saying we were getting our daughter a new iPad for her birthday. She told us she already bought her one. I'm immediately annoyed because this was a gift I had been planning for a while. Later that week she texts my wife asking which iPad did my daughter want. Obviously, at the time she said she bought it, she was lying. Birthday comes around. Daughter opens up her present to find some 5-year-old refurbished iPad. I immediately make a passive-aggressive comment, questioning why it's not in a normal iPad box. My MIL gets upset about the comment and my wife insists I apologize. So I give an empty apology to avoid drama. We quietly return the iPad and I buy the correct one. I can't take it anymore. It's like she's trying to steal favoritism from my kids by always buying the best gift and spoiling them rotten. Your wife is the problem here. You have to apologize and then you both have to quietly return a gift that her mother lied about getting in the first place? I'm confused. True. Your wife seriously needs a reality check on how raising a family together goes. You, her, and your LOs come first and no one else. I shut my mom down hard with gifts and my LO is only 7 months old. I told her she had all her firsts with me and my sibling. My LO's firsts are for me and my husband. Her first Easter dress? I bought it. Her Christmas dress I'll buy. Her birthday dress I got it. Her first visits to the zoo, pumpkin patch etc.? Ours. She made a passive-aggressive comment, "Grandma can't buy anything." I said, "No you can't BC, I have it and I don't want a bunch of crap." She wanted to do a Easter basket. My kid was 4 months old, she didn't know what Easter is. And we decided for her first birthday we don't want people bringing gifts, she's 1, we want them to write a letter she will open when she's 18. I think that will be more special than some gifts. At least for one. It's dismaying that, in addition to stealing the chance to give your daughter a meaningful gift, she had already been caught lying, and yet it's her feelings your wife is concerned about. Has she done this often? Cheap gifts you return and get better quality ones, then she can say she bought buy your daughter an iPad for her birthday, technically correct, and collects the kudos for a pricey gift at your expense. Not normally L. I think she thought she was getting a deal and didn't read the fine print on Amazon. She normally spends around $700 per grandkid on Christmas, she's not cheap. But it also pisses me off, so much money blown on crap. My MAL always shows up with enormous gifts of poor quality. Like she bought the biggest thing from the cheap section. So those never last. It's so annoying because I specially tell what my kids like, for example a Hot Wheels car, those things are tiny but expensive, and they last a lifetime. She could have gotten them really nice Hot Wheels cars, but instead shows up with a robot that tumbles over every 3 minutes and eventually breaks down after falling from the incredible height of the coffee table. I feel this. My stepmom is similar but different. Death by 10,000 little cheap things. My ex-MIL once got so angry that I bought my son an iPad for Christmas. She said to me that she had bought him one and I was confused as to I was supposed to know what she was getting him. Then she talked crap about me to the whole family behind my back about how I did it on purpose and how could she afford that, she's poor, what a peach. My MIL always wanted the biggest, most important, most beloved, most milestone gifts when the kids were young. My advice would be saying no and not sharing information with her. Because, let's face it, our MILs are difficult, this won't always work. Their other advice is to pick out something that is meaningless to you and your child and offer it to MIL as an opportunity. Susie really wants a sandbox. Would you like to get it for her, or should we? Just as an aside, we discovered it wasn't the gift so much as the giver and her style that really annoyed us. My kids had many grandparents and half of them were very generous. But when my FIL wanted to buy the kids a bike, he asked, accepted a no without question if that was our response. He got details from us and he gave it without constantly asking about it, demanding photos, demanding it be brought out for use each visit, etc. It was the opposite with my MIL. So I guess what I am sharing is that it was, in the end, less about the spoiling and the big gift and the first this or that and a whole lot more about how MIL treated gifts and acted about them. It may relieve you to know that my kids grew into young adults who see my MIL clearly for who she is and are very not materialistic in spite of her. Also, this is a problem that fades as the kids grow older and toys and fun gifts are less of a thing. But it is annoying as can be while it goes on. Luckily, it sounds like she's too cheap to successfully buy your kids affection. Ha 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 ha. There's a part of me that would have bought the better one and let her open it first, or tell grandma something else next time to prevent it. Considered it but risked pissing off the wife. Definitely not talking about gifts again. Absolutely worse. LOL, I give my Mill a list of toys she would like, but the gift we buy are never on it. My Ella was very young, but I've already made it clear to my MIL that while she can love her all she wants, she's not going to spoil her with material things unless it's okay from the parents. I'd tell your MIL as much too, because you're right, she's trying to be the favorite by undermining you too with giving your child the gifts she knows she wants. So if you don't want to be blunt about it, just don't tell her what daughter wants. Be very vague, or mislead her, but personally I'd just be very direct about it. Why did you have to apologize for her mom lying and getting the wrong thing? Now that's some BS. Don't discuss gifts around her. Do a list from the kids separate than what you guys have with different gifts. Or if the kids have 10 items, give her the list of 5 of those and keep the others to yourself. Get what I mean? UT definitely is annoying as she lied like that, and you need to address your wife about backing you up with her mother. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.